last session was just a brief session. Do you have any questions about the last session? Okay. Everything is doubtful or no notes. Is it clear? Sure. So you understand this e-business suite technology stack, right? We call it the technology stack and the applications. So basically what we discussed in the last session, it was Oracle e-business suite, middle tier services. Right? Oracle e-business suite, middle tier services. As Oracle e-business suite is consisting of the DB tier, an application tier, the apps tier. The apps tier is also known as middle tier. So in that middle tier, we have various services. So within that apps tier or middle tier, we have the web service is there, the further application service is there. Right? So this is exactly you have to pick up first. The database part you know, the middle tier you know. So you have to gain more idea about the middle tier services. So in these middle tier services, just we have specified the name of the services, isn't it? There is something called the Apache service, the form service and all that, so we have to discuss more in detail about this. Because you see, you have to understand that e-business with three-tier architecture. E-business with three-tier architecture. So as generally in three-tier architecture, you know that the client is going to connect to what? To web server, or actually here it's called web service. And from web service to there are various application service or services. Then you have database server. Isn't it? So what is exactly the database server used in e-business suite? Oracle. Isn't it? Oracle. And these are the middle tier services. Middle tier services. So in these middle tier services, or you can say middle tier services, the main important services are these, like application and web services. What is the name of the web service? So here exactly the server or service uses what? Apache. And here, what are the application services are there? There are various application services are there. For that we have to look at, like, yes, form service is there. Mainly this you have OC4J, Oracle container for Java, isn't it? Oracle container for Java. And then you have other services are there, like you have forms. This we already discussed that Oracle container for Java is an application service and is going to manage which application? HTML based application, and that is called what? OA code. Right? And then we have a form service, isn't it? Form service. And then we have what? CMS, concurrent processing service. So these are the services are there, like various middle tier services, OC4J, form, CMS services. Because in e-business suite we have two types of applications, right? Form based application and HTML based application. So who is going to take care of the form based application? Form service. Actually it can be OC4J, we'll discuss more in detail, the form service. So form service is going to manage forms application. What is which application? Form based application. And this OC4J, OA code, is going to take care of which application? Java. That is called what? HTML based application. Right? HTML based application. So if you look at the user, this is your client or the desktop tab, isn't it? This is your client tab or the desktop tab. So the users are going to access these e-business suite applications from this browser by first connecting to what? Web service. So how users are going to access this application? Whether it's a Java HTML based application or whether it is a form based application, how they are going to access? Not directly. First they have to interact with web service, isn't it? And from web service, then later the Apache or the web service here is going to allow the user, or rather you can say the web service is going to connect the user to the particular application services. So this is the middle-tier services we have to discuss more in detail. So we have to discuss more about the Apache, more about these various application services, the OC4J form service, concurrent manager service. Okay. So you understand? And then this part, the flow and all that, of course we are going to discuss that. First, of course, it will be like this, isn't it? And then there will be authentication. Of this all we are going to see that. And then only this Apache will connect to the application server. If a user wants to access any form-based application, then who's going to come into picture? Form service. And then form service will make a connection to database. If user wants to access any HTML-based application, then who will come into picture? The OC4J, OA code, will make a connection to database. The main two application services you have to understand is that OC4J, OA code for managing the Java-based application, HTML-based, and for forms-based application, form service. And we have additional services on there like CMS and even the other services, that is concurrent manager server. But these are main application server or services. Okay. So these are, you can say, application server. But here the term is not server, it is called service. These are application server. Right? These are two application servers, and that's a web server. Web server, application service, and then database. So, like how the client is going to interact with the web service, how the authentication is done. Okay, so these are all we are going to see, and how user basically connect to application, and then how OC4J is going to make a connection to database, or how form server is going to make a connection to database, which protocol it is going to use. So actually in the last session we have discussed about this. Okay. I think for some of you people have just repeated this part. So we'll be looking at all the middle-tier services, application middle-tier services. So here first, so this is our topic going on, Oracle EBS, Oracle E-Business Suite, the architecture. So in this architecture, we will have to start with all the middle-tier services. Okay. So it's called middle-tier or application services. Actually, you can say middle-tier services. Or HTTP service, form service, OC4J services, and all. Okay. So mainly, the main services of Oracle E-Business Suite are this. It is divided into what, web services. Now look at that. Now this is exactly Oracle EBS implementation of services. There is what? Web services. Okay, web services, and it's what? Form services or form service or form services, what they call, and concurrent processing services, CMS, concurrent services, batch services. Okay. So web services, forms, and concurrent processing service. Here again it is called server, or you can call service, no problem here. But for this is web and a form service. Okay, this is that CMS. So when that, like in the last session, we also see the physical the node also, right? That you can install entire business suite in one box, including DB tab and the middle tab, the application tab. So all the RDB-based home, your database, and all the application tab services, the Apache, the forms will be in one single box, or it can be split into multiple nodes. How many nodes also we have? So we are going to see that physical architecture. The 2-node. Oracle business can be installed in 2-node, 3-node, 4-node, and with load balancing there is no limit. You can install in any number of nodes. There is no limit with load balancing. So before we look at two-node architecture, three-node architecture, or load balancing, you have to understand all the services. So what is exactly Apache? What is exactly web services? Now look at it. So we'll see one by one. So now, according to this Oracle, the web services. What is exactly web services? Under web services, what comes? Under web services, not just Apache. This web services means all the Apache as well as application. So web services means here you have HTTP listener. Okay, the web server or web or HTTP listener. HTTP listener, which is nothing but Apache listener. You can even call this Apache listener. So under web services we have the web, or you can call HTTP or Apache listener. Okay, it's a listener. And then next we have OC4J. You know OC4J, what is that? Oracle, as we already discussed. What is that? Oracle Container for Java. It's a Java Enterprise Edition server, isn't it? Basically, this is the server, OC4J. Exactly, you know what? When we say OC4J, you have to think of OC4J is an application server, Java application server. Here, particularly OC4J implemented for for managing servlets. So you can say it's a servlet engine. Servlet engine. Servlet engine for managing Java based servlet engine. In Oracle User Suite, in R12, what is exactly the servlet engine? OC4J. And in 11.9, it was called JServe. It was called JServe. OC4J was not there in 11.9. So servlet engine. Servlet engine is for running what? Servlets. And servlets are nothing but what? Java programs. Server side Java programs. We are going to discuss. So OC4J you have, and then OPMN. Exactly, OPMN stands for Oracle Process and Notification Manager. It stands for Oracle. What is OPMN actually? OPMN. So this is also part of the web service. Oracle Process and Notification Manager. Oracle Process and Notification Manager. But actually it is divided into two components, OPM. Process Manager and Notification Manager. Actually full you can say OPM. But right now in these web services the OPM use is only Process Manager. So what is used only? Here only for what? Process Manager. So who manage the processes? Who manage Apache listener process? Who manage the OC4J processes? That is OPM. Okay. So we'll discuss this. So this is under web services. Web services. And then you have form services there, and then concurrent processes. But first let us see web services first. So if you look at the web service, the first within the web services we have what? The listener, Apache listener. So you people, as you know that your database listener, your all requests will go to first database listener before a session is started, isn't it? Then only session is started, and you know that when the session is started, then there is no role of the listener. Here, when a user wants to connect to the application, first the request will go to what? The HTTP listener. So when you enter, exactly this when you say, when you open the browser and when you enter the URL www.yahoo.mail or Gmail, whatever. So your request is going where? Your request is going to web server listener. So here exactly it is called Apache listener also, Apache listener. And this Apache listener will serve the HTTP traffic. HTTP request. It is going to serve the HTML file. The moment you say www.yahoo.com or gmail.com, what do you see? You see a HTML page. So who's serving that HTML page? The web server. But within that web server, who's listening for these requests? The listener. The listener. And it has same concept, like your database listener listen on a port number, right? There is a port number, right? So this Apache listener also listen on a port number. Your database listener listen on a port number on a particular protocol. Port and protocol. This is also what? There is a port number and there is a protocol. So here we will discuss one by one. So first we are talking about Apache, and then OC4J, OPMN and this. So in the middle tier services, the first important service is what? The web service, the Apache. Okay, that is again. What is the in the last I think demo you saw? What is the control script to start and stop this Apache listener? What is the control script? That is a script. So just for knowledge actually, AD APC ctl.sh APC, or on Windows platform it is going to be same APC Apache. Just giving you an idea also same time. So how do you start and stop? To make sure that this is running, Apache listener is running. If Apache listener is not running, the clients cannot be served. If database listener is not running, session cannot be started. So how do you start Apache listener? Very simple. This is the script given out. It is called control listener. So using this, just you have to pass one argument, start or stop or finish. You can check. You can stop. Simple. So what happens, you know what? When you start this, Apache listener will be started like this. Okay. So APC. Exactly it is what AD stands for, application DBA. Application DBA. And CTL means what? Control listening. Only you have to remember that APC short, Apache. So it's a script for starting. So here, what we are going to do first, we are going to discuss briefly about the middle tier services, the basic concept related to middle tier services. And again, we'll have more detailed discussion. You got it? Apache. So Apache is what? It's a web server. And if you look at any web server, you have Microsoft web server is there, Sun Micro web server is there, for Sun Micro system, the Sun web server is there. The primary role of the web server is to serve HTML files. The primary role of the web server is to serve HTML files. A web server basically never manage application. It never execute any code. It is going to serve only static HTML files. Only static HTML files. Okay. So within that, who is doing this is Apache listener. So who is doing that? The Apache listener is doing that. Fine. So here we have this Apache listener. Okay. Apache listener. And we started using that as the ADPs. And how to communicate with Apache listener? Through only what? Browser, isn't it? Through browser, right? And what is the protocol is used here? Between the browser and this? Either it is HTTP or HTTP as second. This is the protocol. So Apache is a listener, but what is exactly the name of the server? It is called Apache service, right? Apache service, or HTTP service or Apache service. The listener, this is the process, listener. So what are the files will be served actually to the client? What are the files? HTML. So you can say that Apache serve HTTP request. Okay. So you say that Apache basically serves HTTP request. HTTP request means it is going to serve HTML files. .html files. Static HTML files. Just HTML files. So now you must understand that any HTML files to the client will be served by Apache. And how to contact Apache? Through Apache listener. So what you have to provide here? The address of what? Apache listener. The protocol, the HTTP. Okay, whether HTTP, the Apache listener is reading HTTPS, isn't it? This is the address, right? How you use this? HTTP or HTTPS. Then you have to give what? Address, the machine name, isn't it? The host name, and then what? Domain name, isn't it? Host name, domain name, isn't it? The domain name, colon, the port number, it's called HTTP port number. HTTP port number, isn't it? So it is very much similar to your database listener, isn't it? Database listener. In the DNS, in the client side, in the DNSName.org, what do you mention? You mention the host name, IP address. Here also it is IP address only. But that IP address you can give locally, you can resolve in etc host file. If you are giving a host name, that host name must be resolved into IP address. Where you do that? In the local file, in the etc host file. Or if you have a large number of users, DNS you have to use. So exactly when we open a browser and we say, yahoomail.com or Gmail, so our request is going to DNS. And DNS will give us the IP address. And with that IP address, our request goes to the server. So anyway, so here also it is same way, okay, same. So if you don't have DNS, then directly you can resolve the IP address locally in etc host file. And you're going to see this, So this is just an idea I'm giving you, like what is Apache, how it works Apache. Okay, we are talking about the very first service within e-business, the Apache. How to start and how it works, what is the job, what it serves, HTTP request. So this is the way the content. And if you look at here, initial authentication must be done here itself. Before user connect to any application, whether it is a form-based application, example GL, AP, inventory order management, or whether it's a HTML-based application, iProcurement, iStore, the authentication must be done first. And one-time authentication, user authentication. So here authentication is done by Apache, but exactly Apache doesn't do authentication. Apache, it routes it to servlet engine. So when a user, you know what? When you give this the URL, so the HTML page will be forwarded to the client, and then again this the user can request for a sign-on page. It is very much similar to how you log into your email application. So when you say sign-on, again you get a sign-on page, which is asking you for username and password. And what happens when you enter username and password? Authentication takes. And this authentication will be done by checking the values in database. Because our email accounts are stored in the database. Isn't it? So here, so Apache is going to give you a page. Which page? Sign-on page. So when user basically enter in this sign-on page, when the user is entering the username, username and the password, how the authentication is done. So Apache route this particular request page to servlet engine, and then the authentication will be done. So it is good. The servlet is a program which connects to the database and it performs authentication. And after authentication, it instructs the Apache to display a PHP page, personal home page. Okay. And once you see practically, you will understand clearly here. So first, the user enter username and password, then authentication will be done, and then user get PHP. So what page will be downloaded to this client? PHP. And this is what? Personal home page. So by this, our username and the password account must be already existing. So here in ordinary business, who's doing that job? Sysadmin. And who is the end user here? The employees working in the various departments, the employees, right? So whenever an employee joins the organization, in which department, so which application he has to access, so according to that, the application accounts will be created by sysadmin, and he will be assigned something here what we call responsibilities. For example, if an employee joins in HR department, or if an employee joins in say finance department, okay, payable department, he's working in payable departments, so he has to access which module? Oracle payables. So sysadmin will create an account, username, password, and then he will assign payable responsibility, or maybe inventory responsibility, or maybe HR responsibility. So here we are talking about what? Exactly what? Responsibility. User will assign what? Responsibility. Or it could be more than one. Or responsibilities also. So in your database stuff, you can say it's a role set of privileges. So if a user wants to access a particular application module, then he must have that responsibility for a particular module. GL responsibility, HR responsibility. An account will be created and responsibility will be assigned. Now suppose when we are working as a system admin, okay, so we get a request that create an account for so and so employee by so and so name, and please assign the following responsibility. That's it. So based on that we have to do it. So once we create a user account, this user account information of course is going to be stored in the database, e-business suite database. Which table and all that also we are going to see more in detail. That's it, account is created. And that this account information will be passed on to the employee. When that guy is going to log in, okay, so he will be given basic training also. But they are layman. They are layman, L-A-Y-M-A-N, isn't it? They don't know anything. So they will be given a basic training that how you are going to log in. So first time when he log in, so he will open the browser and he will enter the username and password. And of course he can change the password also. Okay. So now once he enter the user and password, what happened? Now who is doing this authentication? You can say this authentication is done with the help of Apache, but not exactly Apache, but with the help of Apache. So first, after authentication, users are going to connect to which page first? Personal home page. Personal home page. And from personal home page, user can launch the application, or user can connect to the application. After login, after connecting to personal home page, then user can start. User can launch the application. Which application user can launch? That depends on again responsibility, isn't it? So when a user, after authentication, when user get PHP personal home page, user can see the responsibilities. You understand? The responsibility. For example, the name of the responsibility could be like this: GL, inventory, user, name of the responsibility. A user may get minimum one responsibility or two responsibilities. And now user must select that responsibility. And when the user select that responsibility, what happens? That corresponding application will be launched. Okay. Now the next what happens, I'll tell you. We'll see that. So here we are trying to understand the initial role of the web service Apache. Okay. So first time user is entering a URL. The Apache's the request is going to listener, and HTML file will be served, and then user asks for sign on. Then again a sign on page will be forwarded, and once user enter name sign on, once user enter the username and password, then the authentication will be done. Okay, it's again done by the servlet engine, and then the Apache is going to forward PHP personal home page, which is also HTTP page, to the user, and now user get connected to what? Personal home page. Now when user is connected to personal home page, user is still under the control of the service. Still Apache only. Still what? Apache only. Not form server, not OC4, isn't it? And before that I told you, when users are going to work with the form-based application, who's going to come into picture? Form service. And for the HTML-based application, OC4J, O8. But that is next. Now look at here. Exactly, suppose if we have a responsibility, for example, we have a responsibility called inventory, text zone, responsibility. Some responsibility name can be anything. So when a user clicks that responsibility, which application will be launched? Inventory. Now tell me, which service will come into picture? Is it OA core or forms? Which one? OA core or forms? Forms. Forms or OA core? There is nothing dependent, already I told you. No dependency. Okay. Those who know, don't say. Okay. Just, who will come into picture? Huh? Forms. Why forms? Very good. That's it. Because I told you that. I told you something and I am asking you and you are not telling me. I only told you the answer. And then there is no grade here. You are not telling me the back. Just tell me back actually. I told you clearly like GL, AP, inventory, order management, these applications have been designed, developed using forms. I procurement, I expenses, I store, they have been designed using HTML technology. So for example, if I say GL, if I say inventory, if I say AR, AP, then who will come into picture? Forms. If for example, I procurement, there is an application called I procurement, then who will come into picture? See, OC4J, OA, O. OC4J, OA. Okay, but that later part. Okay. So the next part we are going to discuss. And then you know what happened? The moment you select the responsibility, accordingly the response. For example, inventory is a form based. So now Apache will hand over the connection to form service. And then the form service will make a connection to database. Or if a user select HTML based application like iProcurement, then Apache will reroute to OC4J. So these are the container further. Okay. So basically Apache is taking the request, helping in authentication, and once user select the application, then Apache is rerouting into the next service. The next service could be either the form service or OC4J OA. Simple part, that's it, not a tough thing, isn't it? So here, initial part we are discussing. No? So we'll be having more discussion on this. So basic information you pick up. Huh? So how you are studying Apache listener and this part, and then also you note down this control script and the Apache configuration file. This is the Apache configuration file, and we'll be discussing later about this http://.conf. This is Apache configuration. So for each service, the major information first we'll see. Okay, we'll gather the main and key role of this service. So Apache configuration file name. So when you are starting Apache, which Apache, which configuration file it is going to be? http://.conf. This is like a listener. You know, like we have an instance configuration file, parameter file. We have a listener.aura file. This is also configuration file. So when you are starting Apache, it is going to be this file. So where is the information about Apache port number, or where is a port protocol? Where it is in that http://.conf. And there are some more points we will discuss later on. So this is basic. Right? So Apache service, Apache listener. So first page it is all about PHP. Okay. So this is under the web services, the first service, the Apache service, HTTP service. Now you have any question here, you can ask. So you now, when you are, I think, look at this picture. If you are little lost in this picture, you are lost in this picture, lost in Greenwood. Did you lost? Yeah. No. You understand that flow? Same. Clear. What happened first? Where the request will go? First, actually, client request goes to client request goes to HTTP or directly sorry. We'll say what? Apache listener. Brief points, huh? Request goes to Apache listener. Then Apache serve what? HTTP file will be served. It serves HTML file, .html file. User ask for, this is in short, huh? it's a HTML initial HTML file. Maybe it also sign on. It also it's a sign on file, sign on page. HTML file or HTML page also, sign on page. Okay, user. After sign on page performs what? In short, this is not, of course, sign on page means user will enter username, password, then performs authentication. Okay, authentication. And after authentication, what? Serve which file? Serves personal homepage. You can say downloads PHP, personal homepage. Or user get connected to whatever, downloads to the client. So, or you can say serves in whatever, serves PHP, personal homepage. So the question, how user connect, the first thing you people have to understand how users are getting connected to PHP. This is the first part. So first user will send a request to Apache and then they enter username, password, sign on, then authentication, after authentication only PHP. When you want to write basic part, just very basic. So later we'll see more in detail. Now the next service, what is the next here? OC 4G. So let's look at the OC 4G. Next OC 4G. So now we are going to talk about OC 4G, Oracle Container for Java. See, actually there was a Java application server for Orion iPlayer, Java application server, Java Enterprise application server. Oracle Corporation purchased that and changed the name to OC 4G, Oracle Container for Java. So it's basically Java application server, only Java application server. That means it supports only Java-based applications. So yeah, Java-based application. It could be servlet, it could be EJB also, even EJB. Okay, EJB and all that. So if you look at OC4J is a Java application server, but what exactly it is consisting of, basically it has, it is called sublet container. You can say sublet container. It is nothing but sublet container. It is also called web container, sublet container. There are different terms are used. Web container, sublet container. And this sublet container exactly means what? Contains sublet engine. Here what you have exactly? Sublet engine. And this sublet engine is going to run what? Servlets. And these servlets are server-side programs. And these server-side programs are designed to interact with what? Database. To perform transaction, database and all. Servlet. And also OC4J contains other container like EJB container is also. But that we can say. Then there is an advanced level of programming. First let's see this OC4J main is servlet container. Sublet container, and that is basically sublet engine. Fine. Now listen, in R12, in business suite, it was basically, if you look at it in 11i, it was called JServe. It was just directly called Java Sublet. And in R12, Oracle people replaced this with what? OC4J. So what was the application server in 11i? JServe. And this application server is replaced by what? OC4J. So in 11i, who used to serve from a HTML-based application? JServe. And the same HTML-based application are now served by a better application server, an advanced application server called OC4J. Right? And now again, the later again Oracle, that means this is in 12.0 and 12.1. Again, if you see in 12.2, again in the next release, again Oracle has replaced this with what? WebLogic. WebLogic server. So WebLogic server is also like a servlet. WebLogic server also contains sublet container, EJB container. Isn't it? So in 11i it was JServe. Now it is OC4J. In future it is going to be WebLogic server. same rule. But of course, I can say for a couple of years OC4J will be there. As long as few years, e-business suite will be there. 12.2 will come, and that will take time. But before that, you have to go into OC4J. And just get an idea about JSF also, 11. Anyway, so now we are talking about what? OC4J. Servlet container. So OC4J is an application, Java application server. So it follows which is specification? Java standard specification. Java. So it supports JDK 1.4, 1.6. Now the latest support what? Java specification 1.6. 1.6. So it is implemented according to the standard Java specification for supporting Java-based application. So now see here, coming to R12. In R12, all your application, your Java-based application, for HTML-based application, and even in R12, your form server will be running under OC4J. Okay. So here, if you see, OC4J, this is contained inside. It has got servlet container. But OC4J in R12 manages. In R12, it manages 3 instances. 3 instances are there. 3 instances. There are 3 instances are there. OC4J manages 3 instances in R12. 3 instances. Instances are nothing but processes. For different application, different instances based on processes. What are the instances are there? The 3 instances are this. First is OA code. OA code. Okay. OA code instance for HTML based application. HTML based application. All the HTML based application managed by OC4J, which instance? OA code instance processes. Second, second forms. Forms servlet. In R12, your forms is running in servlet mode, MODE mode. We'll see that one, the socket mode, servlet mode. So your forms is running in servlet mode, and because it is in R12 by default it is servlet mode, so it is going to be controlled by OC4. So your forms is running as one instance under OC4. What is the name of the instance? It is just called forms. What is the name of the instance? Forms only. Forms only. And it is for which application? You know very well. What is it? For forms based application. And you remember the name of the module. You remember at least 4 or 5 names. GL, APAR, and for HTML based I procurement, I expenses, I store. You got the name, right? So by default, like OA code, forms. So what is form servlet, socket? We'll discuss that. Okay, we'll talk about it. So there is second instance. So OA code and this. And there is a third instance is there called OAFM. 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 This is OAFM, you know what? Oracle Application Fusion Middleware. Oracle Application Fusion Middleware. So there are some services will be running under this. So you must understand OAFM actually is a purely future implementation. But right now, yeah, the full form is actually, sorry, this is just a full. You can say what is OAFM? Oracle Application Fusion Middleware. But what it is exactly serving? It is serving fusion based application. Okay. So there is something called, we'll discuss later, there is something called Map Weaver is there. To view the graphical picture, Map Weaver. A graphical map weaver picture. There are some modules they use as map, and for that is running as a one service under what? OAFM. But in future OAFM will pick up more because all the fusion based application will be deployed to OAFM. So 3 instances are there. 3 instances are there. And again, like here you have a map weaver is there. You can note down. There is something called web services are there. So web services will be running under which instance? Web services. What is web service? Also, I'll brief you on that. Actually, as an apps developer, we need to have a very basic knowledge. Web services running under OAFM. Web services nowadays it is called SOA, service oriented architecture. So it was in R12 it is not used, but they started the instance, they created the instance. It is not playing a major role. You know what we are doing in R12? We are disabling it. We are disabling, we are stopping it. We are not starting. It's not playing major role, but an idea. But then two are critical, very core. OA core and forms. So three instances running like this. So when you know that when a user is going to, after connecting to PHP, when a user select any HTML based application like iProcurement and other, who will come into picture? OC4J. But OC4J is going to serve which instance? OA core. But who's going to make a connection to database? OC4J. Okay. And it is all using what? Servlets. Servlet. Will the servlet engine is that content. And even in Apps2, because by default your forms is running in servlet mode, so it is also served by OC4J. So when user going to serve, when user is going to access any form-based application, again it is going to go OC4J only. But under OC4J, which instance? Forms. And when users are accessing these web services or MapViewer, it's a basic service, some modules they are using. So then OC4J is going to serve by OAFM instance. So three instances must be running. Three instances. So this is what OC4J, Oracle Container for Java, three instances. And we'll discuss more about that. So generally, of course, you know that this part is not recommended by Oracle. Yeah, by default it is servlet. So no, don't run in servlet. Don't run in servlet. So better say that you change it to what? Socket. Connection mode. This is all about pre-function. This is all about connection mode. Connection from the client to forms. Connection from the client to forms. Either servlet or socket. Servlet is more secure, more reliable, but not good for performance. So it is using TCP and all that internally. It is highly secure. Socket is very good in terms of what? Performance. You know what? A simple point-to-point connection is called socket. A simple point-to-point connection is called. This is not a point-to-point connection, multi-layer connection. So there is a time for communication. So when we talk about the speed communication between the client and so where the speed communication will take place? Socket. Simple point-to-point. But it is not very reliable. If your network is not good, if your connection is going to drop, your connection will be lost, it is not going to be re-established. If your connection is going to drop, the connection will be re-established. Again, we will see that, but this is the basic differences. So reason why I am saying, because Oracle, in fact, right after installation, you always saying don't do that. Yeah, they kept it default subject. So you have to change it to what? Forms, right? Form servlet to what? Socket, right? Simple point-to-point connection, P2P, point-to-point. This is simple point-to-point connection, P2P connection, point. Simple connection. The moment you change to socket, then your forms will not be served by OC4J. Then how many instances will be running under OC4J? OA core and OAFM. They are fixed. OA core and OAFM. And even I am telling you, we also disable OAFM. We are stopping it. Okay. There is this MapViewer and all that. There is a module called transportation module. There is a module called transportation module. Most of people they didn't even hear about it. So that module is using it. So how many companies are using that transportation module? Out of 10,100, the transportation module, isn't it? So that means if that module is there, then otherwise what we are doing what? Disabling to stop. So that means major instance is what then? What will be remaining? OA core. Under OC4J, OA core will be there, forms will be going. When you change, you know what happened? Then forms will become standalone. Then it is called form service. Standalone forms service. It is going to run as standalone process, form service process. So standalone process. So we will discuss about this form service more. So now any user want to access form-based application, who will serve that? Forms service, which is a standalone process, separate process, not under OC4. So there will be another service will be there. What is the service there? Form service. It is also based on the process. So that will serve what? Users. If it is running in socket. But by default, of course, it is what is that? Subnet. Subnet means by default it is under OC4. So right after installation, no delay. Right after installation, order say that better change it to subnet to them. Only like when you are implementing, you know what? You know, get this what you call, you have, you know, something like in networking we have firewall, security, firewall and all that, then only you can use what? Subnet. If you are not using firewall and all that, you know, security, all that stuff, then it is not required. So anyway, that's what later we can discuss about. That's just basic idea I'm giving you. So this is initially it is required for you when forms is going to form service is going to run as standalone, and when it is going to run under OC as one of the instance of OC. So clear? So here all the HTML application will be served by this OA code instance. But who is going to make connection to your database? OC4. And how OC4 is going to connect using OA code? You know, it is going to use JDBC. I'll tell you more in detail. Using which protocol? JDBC driver. Because it's Java-based application, so JDBC driver. So that also you must understand. This JDBC driver, how this JDBC driver is used to connect and all. Okay. Now look at here some basic knowledge. You must know that. So you know what? For running this, what exactly OC4J, basic information. For running these all instances, you know what does OC4J need? For all this, what is required for this? What is required for forms? And what is required for this? You know what is required? You require JVMs. What do you require? JVMs. What do you require? JVMs. Java Virtual Machines. So meaning what? When a OA code instance is running, is what is running? JVM processes are running. When a form subnet is running, JVMs are running. And OAFM, JVMs are running. Separate JVMs for OA code. Separate JVMs for form. Separate for this. And we are going to discuss in PT class, performance tuning class, how many JVMs we need. It is based on concurrent users. How many users are connecting to this OA code? 100. We need 2 JVM or 1 JVM. For 100, 1 JVM. Like that. That's later. Maybe after, from now we will be discussing after 3 weeks. But just an idea, brief idea I'm giving. So Java application will be run, executed at runtime by Java Virtual Machine. So what is the meaning of these instances? These instances are the JVM processes. 3 instances served by, so JVMs, multiple can be, multiple processes. 1 JVM, 1 process, multiple processes. So separate Java Virtual Machine, and JVM is nothing but what? It's a process. At OS level it is what? It's a process. Java, which is going to run what? Java application. It is going to run Java application. To run a Java application, you must require what? JVM. No. As long as it is under OC4J. Now, the moment you change it, then it is totally different. Then direct connection. Then different. Standalone connection, form processing, this kind of. So, it is for OC4J. So, what does OC? I said OC4J require what? OC4J requires JVMs. If it is under OC4J. And as we are going to disable it, we will disable it. And we will change it to what? Socket, and then what will be remaining? Only OA code. So we need JVMs on only OA code. And your forms will be running standard. And we'll discuss about form service also. So us get a basic idea about these services instances. And you know how these all the services can be managed, these OC4J services. You have a separate control scheme, right? AD what? AD OA core CTL.sh, and for Apache AD APC, or OA core AD OA core, right? Isn't it for process? No, I'll tell you something different. Now the question is how we can manage all the processes, the Apache processes, all the web service processes, all web services, under web services, your OC4J as well as your Apache. How you can manage all the processes? The answer is what? OPMN. So under OPMN we are only taking which part of the OPMN, you know, process management. Actually full process management and notification management. So we are taking which part only? Process management. So when you control all these services, Apache and all that through OPMN, then these processes will be automatically managed by OPMN or process management. I will see the advantages. So for example, look at again, how do you start Apache service? Look at again, this is very important, AD, APC, CTL.sh. How do you start OA core? AD, OA core, CTL.sh, and then for forms, AD forms CTL. But the problem is, the process is started, Apache process. Suppose if this process goes wrong, if the Apache process gets terminated, not finished, then who must restart? We must restart. So we should not do that. We should not start actually like that. We must manage all these HTTP process and these all the instances processes through OPMN. Instead of that, you know what? If you start all these, including all that, like AD, OPMN, CTL.sh. So what it is going to start? It starts what? It starts all that. Okay. So for starting, it starts what? All Apache, HTTP process. So it starts what? HTTP and all that instances. OA code and forms, sublet, OA, FM. So who is going to start all this? You can say start, it can start, it can stop, and it monitors and restart on failure. Monitors and restart automatically. Monitor and restart on failure. This is good. So in e-business suite, managing this is very easy job. Even you don't need to monitor also. If OA core is terminated, who will restart it at? OPM, process manager. So process manager start, stop like this. So you can say, you need to just one time you need to start, huh? Just one time you start. Like, what is the parameter you pass here? AD, OPMN, CTL.sh, then start, finish. What it does then? What are the services is it starting? Apache, HTTP, OA core, form servlet, and OFM, and it is starting and then doing what? Monitoring. Starting and monitoring, and keep on monitoring. Every 2 seconds it monitors, and if any process goes down, it is restart. If any process is terminated, it is going to restart. It's very good, isn't it? So we have to take it, and at a time you can start all. Apache, HTTP, OA core, forms, all you can start it. And if forms running in sublet mode, if forms running in socket mode, then it will not start. It will start only HTTP, OA core and OAFM. If you disable OAFM, then it will start only Apache and OA core. Depending. If you disable, it will not start. By default, it is all enabled, right? So it starts. So how you are going to manage processes, you understand? You understand process manager means what? Managing all HTTP and application processes. Starting, stopping, and automatically restart. So exactly, this is one of the components of Oracle application server, which has been used in e-business. Originally, this is the component of Oracle application server, which which is also used in e-business suite for managing these all services, processes. So you know what it does? 2 seconds it monitors, but every 20 seconds it pings, ping. OPM and process manager will ping to all this, and it must get response. If it is not getting response, then it say, oh, it has died. So it is detecting what? Death processes. So basically, the main thing is that, so it restart when it detects that it is but death process. So it is finding out the death process. Finds death processes by pinging. And if you go more in detail, which is a very good mechanism, OPM and every 20 seconds will ping to all these processes. They must respond. And then in turn, again every 20 seconds, they must also ping to OPM. It's called reverse ping. Forward ping, reverse ping. Pinging, both sides pinging to make sure the processes are running. And if they go down, no problem, it must be restarted. Because service will be down, a user will face problem. So now you understand why you have to take care of this using OPM. Our job is easy. All these services. You just start and finish, that's it. Is it? So you can start and stop this Apache service, Apache listener, this OA code separately, or you can manage them all as the process as like under OPM. That is process manager. And this is the script for starting under process manager. AD, OPM, secret process. Just very simple. Start. If you want to stop, stop. And restart, automatically it will be restart. And then status also you can check. Start, stop, status. So it will tell you all whether they are running or not. So pings, just idea, pings every 20 seconds, both forward and reverse. Pings every 20 seconds, forward and reverse. So you better manage all these HTTP OA code forms, OFM under process manager. So under web services, it was discussed Apache, the web service Apache, and then the OC4J and OPM. Okay, any question you have? Yeah, it detects that death process and restarts. So to detect, it will make sure, confirm that no response coming from both sides. So it does a forward ping, it waits for reverse ping, and then the death, then you can restart. And let me also, because you know what I'm doing, I'm also giving you the name of the configuration file also. So at least you note down the name of the configuration file. So for this, you know what, OA code, for the which application? HTML-based application, OA code. For OA code, the main configuration files are these. Configuration file, please note down, config files. I just give you for Apache, right? Don't forget, HTTP.exe. Remember the name of the file at least, we discussed. What are the configuration files are there? OPM and .exe. Again, opmn.xml. opmn.xml, server.xml, Orion web.xml. And there are more are there, but these are the main. OPMN, server, Orion. This is Orion. The Orion means actually what was the name of OC4JDC? It was Orion application. There's some of the names still. Orion web, Orion application. So we'll discuss it. Exactly, I told you that the Apache port number and all that, it is in HTTP. So where is the information about the JVM? JVM, because it uses JVM, it is in this. So that we'll discuss later, don't worry. The information about JVM. So this is all about the configuration files. These are the configuration files. Just note down the names and we'll see later more detail. And for the form service also, note down form service. It is appsweb.ch. appsweb.configuration. appsweb.cfg. It's a form service configuration. Form server. Just the name of the configuration. So we are going to discuss those configurations. So this is under like the web services. Okay, web services. So when we say web services, and then when we say form services, start. See, web services and then form service. So why they saying then form service separately? Socket. Socket. If it is servlet, then there is no form service separately. Then forms will be under web services. As a what? Form servlet. Yeah, under OC4J. Under OC4J, under web services. So when we say web service means we are talking about standalone forms. Standalone. Okay. So this is from standalone runtime engine. This is actually form service, and this form server engine contains form server runtime engine. Forms service runtime engine. It is based on runtime engine process. Forms runtime engine, and it is based on a standalone process actually. Form service means form service. Form service is based on form service runtime engine process. So that means if we change form servlet to socket, then if any user will access any form-based application, GL, AP, AR, where the request will go? Form service. Form service means forms service runtime engine. And then who will make connection to database? This forms runtime engine will make connection to database. It doesn't go to OC4J if it is in socket mode, independent. Okay. So that's why we say that form service is a separate service when it's running in socket. form service. So just give you an idea basically. So here what it does, when a user is going to access forms, so it is going to start what? It is going to start form process or form processes. And through these form processes, it is going to make connection to what? Database. So, you understand? Database. Fine. So like for example, if you see OC4J, under OC4J OA core, so when users are going to access OA core applications, so there is a OC4J which is making connection to what? Database server, right? For serving OA core application. And even for forms also OC4J is making connection if it is running in servlet. But now it is not running in servlet, so OC4J will not play any role for forms. So it is independent actually. It is independent. Okay. So direct when a user is going to access from personal home page, from PHP, when a user is going to select responsibility, which responsibility? Any form based. For example, inventory, GL. Okay. Then direct the Apache will hand over the connection to forms service, means engine. And this engine will start a process and will make a connection to database. And this is exactly called the session. And you know very well what is the protocol used here? What is the communication protocol here? At the OS level it is TCP, but at this client level, forms and database client level. See, this is Oracle Forms. Oracle Forms, Oracle Database. Very good. See, very simple. Most of the people still think. The moment you talk about Oracle means you only should think of Oracle TNS. That's it. What is the net services? Oracle Net TNS. Oracle Net TNS. Both Oracle means proprietary communication software, network software. What is that? TNS. Net TNS. Full name is what? Net Oracle Net TNS. Oracle Net TNS. What do you require here? What do you require here? Database listener. What do you require here? This is actually what? Actually it is technically what? TNS listener. What do you require here? TNS service. But what is required here? OC4J to this, tell me. Again it is connecting to what? TNS listener. But what is you require here? What do you require? You can't use here. You cannot use this protocol. What is the protocol? Net TNS. So here what is the protocol? Here it is JDBC. Now that's Java. JDBC. Oracle tool. Oracle database. So what? Net TNS. So you know what exactly what happened? This is I will cover a boring data. Exactly means what happened? Form process started here. Can you tell me what happened here? It goes to listener and authentication instance. There is a you know that whole story. This I don't need to cover this. The database is there. Then what is that? Your database is a production. Your instance is a production through listener. Yeah, of course. Every time the request will go to database listener. Even form server want to make a connection. It goes to listener, and then after authentication, here database level authentication will take place. And then session will be started here. What is that session? What do you call here? What do you call this session? Now what exactly happened? Which process will be started?
Server process.
Exactly. This is server process will be started. What is the memory allocated? PGA. And then this form process will be directly connected to this server process. Okay. And from the client, we'll discuss more in detail. So the client will be connected to form process is connected to server process. This form process to this server process, this is exactly called what? Session. And I'll tell you about more about JDBC also we'll discuss. Just giving you an idea actually here. So that means you must understand whether forms is running under OC4J or standalone. Standalone means like this. So there is a process running and for every client it will start one process and then will make a connection to database. Independent. This is totally independent of OC port form service because it is running on the socket. And this is just to give you an idea of basically like how session connection is made. So user connected to form service nothing but there is a form runtime process is there, and that will start a process, form process, and that form process will make a connection to database. How long this is established? How long it is there? How long? As long as the user is connected to the form. When user close the form, front end, if user close the form, what happens? The PJ will be released, the server process will be closed, even this form process will be closed. So this form process, this is to serve the user session, particular user. And to understand the connection, here very simple. To understand the connection from OC4J, whatever, OA core or whatever, from OC4J to database server, you have to understand JDBC connection. And it uses Oracle, this JDBC is Oracle JDBC, it is using thin JDBC, yeah? Oracle, yeah, it is JDBC, but who developed it? Oracle people developed it, not Java, Oracle developed it. For Oracle database, they develop their own JDBC. What's that? Thin JDBC. Then how the JDBC make a connection? So there is something called min connection, max connection. There are some properties parameters. So actually, this is just a kind of a very brief overview, basic idea. We are trying to understand what are the middle class services are there, what is Apache, forms. This is not more in detail. More detail is going to come later. I think you have any question for me? That's it for today's session. You have any questions? You know, I'll repeat it. Like if you say I didn't understand that, but I will repeat it. Or you say that no, I will give me time. Take time. Report server is gone. In 11 it was there. In R12 it is not there. In R12 it is CMS. Last we did discuss. Tomorrow I will continue. So in R12 we have concurrent processing server which is going to take care of the reports. Report server was not, but I'll give you example. So at the time when we are going to talk about concurrent processing server, we discuss. So today we discuss only what? Web services and form service. Just basic idea in the military or whatever. So you know what? You have to, this is what, you have to learn more about these services. Apache, this OC4J, this form service, and other concurrent processing server. That's it. So what is the role of each service? How to start and stop, how to monitor. Monitor. You can say like basically how does it monitor? Exactly it is that how does it detect the dead client process? By pinging. Monitoring, you know what? Monitoring means just go and check the status. Go, that is called monitoring. Go and check. That is monitoring. But here it is not only checking the status, but running or not, it is also pinging. And two-way, forward pinging and reverse. It will ping and that also should ping. So there.
When it forms a gate, it is not reliable, but including performance, depend upon the data architect, DNS design. If the network is
no. Here it is not. No. Actually, this is all about, you know, client. From the client to what? This I will cover. Don't worry, I will cover. Form to browser to what? Form process, direct. What is this? This is either socket or server. So what is the connection? The connection, not connection between forms to database. This is connection between client to forms. So between client to forms and forms to database. Correct. So between forms today there is always, remember, fixed. What is that? Net TNS, yeah? Is that net TNS? Here TNS service, very simple. TNS.order file, you people know very well. TNS.order file. And believe me, your core DBA will very important. Your core DBA concept, your listener concept, TNS service is very clear, and this is very clear. I'm telling you. It looks like so, but it is very simple. Here also it is using same TNS service. So I think some of you very comfortable, but some of you are more comfortable. So it's the initial matter, this comfort. So you will come to the comfort level, but you have to spend time. Okay. Generally, as a hardcore DBA, not DBA, hardcore DBA. Mostly hardcore DBA will face some little problem. Because hardcore DBAs are moody people, moody. I don't know, I'm DBA, I'm a DBA. So now you have to change your mood. So it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. And don't worry, I'm going to repeat whatever you say. Ultimately things will be clear. So we go step by step. So our discussion is only mid-data services. We didn't even discuss single node, multi-node architecture. And we'll be discussing that. And we'll discuss about application file system, and e-business with data model, types of applications. So easily another 4 sessions is required for these all initial classes. So comfortably we discuss all this. And you have seen like how to start and stop these services, right? You want to so we'll arrange again some of these tomorrow we have this class. Be comfortable with how to start services, stop services, how to check the services and all that. During the production time, I can say your more efforts are not required. Apache, OC4J, Node. Like you just make sure that these services are running. And in fact, now OPMN is going to make your job more easy, isn't it? You just have to make sure that your Apache service is running, your OA code instances are responding well, your form service is doing good. That's it. In e-business suite, the major your efforts are required by database only. Again, it is database only for tuning database, for troubleshooting database. Application will not require much. Okay. Only make sure that services are connected. That's it. And then some tuning, initially tuning and all that. So in the tuning part, we discuss. So see you tomorrow.